My name is Rachna Goyal. I'm president and founder of Jane Doe Advocacy Center, a legal service center for survivors of sexual violence. Domestic violence is a term that's commonly used in society to mean many different things. The legal definition of domestic violence is any type of violence that takes place between people in a domestic relationship. That means that domestic violence can happen between family members, roommates, people who are in a dating relationship or were formerly in a dating relationship. It essentially encompasses anything other than friends, acquaintances, and strangers. So domestic violence in a legal sense is very broad and encompasses many different types of relationships where violence. When looking for a lawyer, when trying to address domestic violence through the legal system, there's several things that people should consider. Once you've made that decision to pursue legal action, or once a legal action has been filed against you, hiring a lawyer is the first thing that comes to most people's minds. The most important thing to remember is that you should find someone who you can trust to represent your best interests. Remember, a lawyer is going to be standing up for you in court, talking with the judge, talking with other parties in the case about what it is that you want and what it is that you need to go on living your life. So when you're looking for a lawyer, the most important thing you can have is a relationship of trust, where you know that that person is going to represent you, what you want, and what you need. When specifically looking for a lawyer, things that commonly need to be looked at are, first of all, and the most common concern is, how much does a lawyer charge? Do they charge by the hour? Do they charge on a flat rate? If they do charge by the hour, what increments are they billing you in? If you call for a 10-minute phone conversation, are they going to bill you for 10 minutes? Or are they going to bill you for half an hour or a whole hour? That's a very important thing to keep in mind when looking for a lawyer and planning your finances, because legal fees can get really hefty really fast. And making sure that your lawyer explains how you're being billed and that you're comfortable with that is a way that you're going to be able to manage the stress of those finances. Another thing you want to look at is the experience that the lawyer has. Have they done domestic violence cases before? Have they handled cases as similar to yours in the past? And if so, what was the outcome? Are they worried more about winning a case? Are they worried about getting what's going to be best for you? Are they worried about the children in the case and doing what's best for them? These are all questions that you should ask when interviewing a lawyer and trying to choose someone to represent you. Why should you hire a lawyer? A lot of people think that you don't necessarily need a lawyer because the legal system is designed to be accessible to anybody, anywhere, at any time. In some cases this is true, and in some cases it's not. So let's talk about the difference between when you need to hire a lawyer and when you can represent yourselves. If you feel comfortable going into a courtroom and taking on a case by yourself, then you absolutely should. There's no reason you should hire a lawyer simply because someone tells you to hire a lawyer, because you have questions that you're not finding answers to. That is a lawyer's primary job, is to answer questions, explain the process, and tell you how your problems can be addressed through the tools of the legal system. So when seeking out a lawyer, you should seek out somebody because you need those questions answered and you need someone to help you navigate the legal system the way it is. Here at Jane Doe, a lot of times we have clients who aren't sure whether or not they actually need a lawyer or if they just need to understand how the process works. So the way that I explain it to them is this. If they understand the process, if they are comfortable going into a courtroom and speaking for themselves, then that is a very empowering experience and it's something that I wouldn't take away from them. So yes, they may be ready to go into court and represent themselves. Times when I recommend that people do have a lawyer. One is if they are in a very nasty case in which children are involved. Children can tend to complicate cases, especially when they enter family court. And at that point, you want to have a lawyer to make sure that you're following the law, you're following all the rules, and that you're not going to do something to jeopardize your rights to child custody or support. Another time I recommend people have a lawyer is if everybody else in a case has a lawyer. For example, if the opposing party has lawyered up and they've hired an attorney to represent them. If the court's appointed a lawyer to represent your children, especially in a family court case, then you also most likely want to have a lawyer. The reason for that is because you don't want to be left in the dark, you don't want to be left without knowing what the rules are in the courtroom, and thus give the other parties a leg up for that reason. When dealing with any kind of violence, domestic violence, sexual violence, anything where you have a violent situation against a person, the most important thing to remember is that it is not your fault. The person who is the victim of the violence, or here at Jane Doe we like to call them survivors, because you are survivors. You've gotten to a point where you've experienced the violent situation, you've overcome it, and you've gotten to a point where you're watching this video because you want to learn how to get help. It is not your fault that the violence happened. Did you do everything right? Maybe, maybe not. Is there something you could have done to prevent it? Maybe, maybe not. But either way, the fact that somebody actually became violent and targeted that violence toward you has absolutely nothing to do with you. Domestic violence is all about power and control. It is all about one person needing to have power over somebody else, and the victim or the survivor is the one that they chose to exercise their power over. The fault in that situation does not belong on that victim or survivor. Again, my name is Rachna Goyal, president and founder of Jane Doe Advocacy Center. I stand up against domestic violence.